I'm really concerned for you guys. How would Gen Z and millennials retire if the rental crisis keeps getting worse and worse in Australia? I mean, I speak to a ton of clients who book a call with me on TikTok, and then I disqualify about 6 to 8 of them out of the 10 calls. And the reason being is they don't have enough income to service the loan, and they don't have the deposit to get into the property they want to get into. The question is, if they keep renting for the rest of their lives, can they retire comfortably? Let's digress this question. So the premise is, what does retirement look like if you're a millennial and Gen Z if you kept renting? Not because you had a choice, because you can never get into a property market. And the given fact is, the rental crisis keeps worsening year by year. And another given fact is living costs worsens. I'll break this down into 3 tables. 1992, and then comparing to now, 2024. And let's apply another 30 years on top of that to 2056. And what does these facts and stats look like? So let's look at stats. CoreLogic Property Pulse, the long game, 30 years of housing values. Let's go to the graphs. So basically in 1992, July 1992, the average median house prices was around here. All right, let's not say 200. Say, hey, that's kind of unrealistic. Okay, let's just say it was around 350 to buy a house in 1992. Boom, let's plug this here. Next, what is the rent? Let's pull some data from the New South Wales Government Rent and Sales Report back in 1992. Let's scroll down. Before I show you the stats of 1992 and what the rent looks like, let's look at 1987. It was about $123 a week to rent the bloody inner Sydney, which is inner west. And then you have Sydney median prices for a 3-bedroom place. And let's zoom into 1992. It's around, say, $250-ish. So boom, you put in the rent over here, $250 a week. Now, if someone bought a house, let's pick an example local to me, in Marrickville in 1992, let me show you too, a 3-bedroom house in the inner west in 1992, which it got sold for $164,000. But again, guys, I'm being very conservative and saying the house was $350. And let's go with this example. Let's jump into the second category of my table, 2024, 30 years later. What is that house worth now? Let's jump into RP data. Now, this is paid subscription. Drum roll, please. What would it be? Okay. So like Back to the Future, Marty McFly, and Dr. Brown jumped into the time machine car in 1992. Boom. Okay, it's not 30 years. It was like 32 years. 2024. Let's put this in. Boom. $2,225,000 for the same property you bought for $350K, but it was actually $164K. I, again, overgrossed this, but let's play with this. And right now, let's check out rental estimate. It would be, drum roll, $987 per week in rent, and this is very conservative. This is 2.5% yield of the property price. In Sydney at the moment, it's about 3 to 3.5. I've even seen 5% yield in Sydney inner west. By the way, that information you saw is not free. I pay a lot of money to get access to that information, and my clients obviously get it for free, just FYI. So back to my example, if someone bought a house in 1992 for $350,000, by this time, the house would have been paid off. This is the capital, all right? And if they were to rent this house after buying this house and to turn it into an investment property, they will be renting out for $987 per week. Now, let's just say old mate Boomer here, who bought the house in 1992 for $350, and now it's worth $2 million. He doesn't need to pay rent on this place because there's no mortgage on it. He can live in it for rent free, but he decides to rent it out. So obviously there's also, cost of owning this investment property. Just to say $400 to $500 a month, council rates, land tax, and, insurances. In this example over here, old mate Boomer that bought a house in 1992, the house is now worth $2 million. There's no mortgage, so he's living rent free. He can decide to rent it out, but the high cost of living is not bothering him or her because it's like $400, $500 a month. Whatever. With that as comparison, let's look at the Gen Zs and millennials. If they bought a house in 2024, what would the next 30 years look like? Now, based on savings.com.au, now not my prediction, this is data from the internet, whether you trust it or not, they are projecting $7.3 million by 2050. And this is just the average house prices in Sydney. We're talking about the inner west here. This is LA of Sydney, bro. But let's go by that, all right? So 2056, I'm being conservative, $7.3 million. Let's jump into the rent. In 2056, what do you think this place will be rented for? You reckon it will still be rented for $986 per week? God damn no. I would say at least at least double. Boom, $1,800 a week. And I'm being super conservative. In 2056, when I'm old and wrinkled, I will bet you this would have been like 3 or 4 grand. And then the cost of owning this property, maybe $900 a month. Applying the same proof of concept that happened to the boomer in 1992, and if a millennial and Gen Z, which is most of my clients, including myself, because I'm a property investor myself, we bought a property now, and then next 30 years, we'll have a house worth $7 million. We can rent it out for $1,800 to $3 grand a week. Would we be able to retire comfortably? Hell yes! But the question begs to the premise of this video. How would a Gen Z and millennial who can't get into the property market and kept renting for the next 30 years, how will they retire? How would you guys retire if you had to pay rent of $1,800 to $2,000 a week, right? I can't fathom the crazy society and the state of living that we'll be in 30 years. Like me and my mates and my clients, we're homeowners, we'll be sitting around going, look, we paid off our home, we're enjoying, the capital growth, and, cost of living is like, it's high, but we're cool. And then we look around and like, dude, $3 grand a week in rent? Yo, serious? Seriously, is there hope for the Gen Zs and millennials who can't get into the property market right now? For the people that have been disqualified by myself, not by myself, by the way, I'm just representing the bank. The bank's serviceability, the cost of rates, it's keeping you guys out of the market. The high cost of construction, the property prices set by builders and developers, it's way too high. There needs to become some government intervention to help Gen Zs and millennials to get into the property market right now, so that in 30 years, they can retire comfortably. If there's no help, you guys have no hope in hell to retire comfortably. Seriously, jump in the comments and let me know whether I'm being ridiculous with my figures. I'm seriously concerned for you guys.